My crazy entitled fiancé cancels our wedding a week before simply because he was so angry after a minor argument that we had. But now, after reality has set in, my fiancé has come back to me begging for another chance. But after being treated so poorly and humiliated in front of all of our friends and family, I now no longer trust him. Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So, as the title states, my ex-fiancé has canceled our wedding a week before it took place. We've been together for about 6 years and we've lived together for context. And what happened basically was an argument that escalated. We were heading to my program graduation, which is a smaller event of about 10 students, and on that morning as we were getting ready, I asked if he would be okay to wear one of his button-ups instead of the shirt that he had on so we could get a nice photo. When I said that, he was annoyed, and he snapped at me by saying, "Why do I have to do things for others?" And I told him that he truly doesn't have to, and that I was just asking, but ultimately it is his choice. He ended up putting the button-up on, and we arrived at the ceremony, and everything went fine, and he was very happy for me. However, on the way home in the car, traffic was filling up and he was annoyed. I offered an alternative route that I know will cut down on some of the time, and the exit to that route was coming up. Well, he didn't take it, and I was slightly annoyed about it because he was cranky with me about traffic. So I asked why he didn't take it. Well, when I said that, he started full-on yelling that my tone is rude and that he doesn't have to drive the way that I tell him to. I replied by saying that I literally just asked and that I don't actually care about what route he takes. He was the one having any kind of problem with traffic. He then blew up and blamed me for getting him upset. When we got home, I apologized and explained that I didn't mean to come across as mean. I also said that screaming doesn't help in any situation and that we really should have talked instead. He basically explained that an apology doesn't solve anything and that he needs such things to not happen, otherwise he would continue exploding at me because according to him, that's the only time I listen to him. After a few hours, we spoke again, with him apologizing for yelling, and I apologized for the miscommunication that happened. Now, despite resolving this, later that night, I was crying due to the fact that he so easily yells at me when he's upset. I was so upset that even on such an important day for me, I felt like he was picking fights. And to add to this, yelling is such a red flag for me, and I never do that to him or anyone for that matter. The next morning, we were having breakfast, and he asked me why I seemed so gloomy, so I told him that everything's okay, but I'm just processing what happened yesterday. He then asked me to please share with him, so I told him that I felt like my special day was kind of ruined, all because of the fighting about things that we could have easily resolved. Well, when I said that, he just immediately lost his mind and started getting angry again. He blamed me for the fights, and when I replied that I didn't think it's fair to blame me, he got angrier and said that he can't do this, that I'm not a good communicator, and that he can't get married like this. And when he said that, I was just completely shocked. I thought he was talking out of emotion like many times before, but this time he actually ended up sending a mass text message to all of our guests to let them know that the wedding is called off. I was flabbergasted at the quickness and I was so confused. We started arguing and then had to leave for our days. Later that day when we returned, I asked if this is truly something that he wants to call off everything, and he responded with a confident yes. Now, what I thought was an action out of anger seemed to be a solid decision for him. For the rest of the night and the next day, I tried to fix things between us. After many hours of talking and lots of crying from my end, he kept explaining that I don't communicate well and that this cancellation was my fault. I tried to offer some kind of solutions, but he was full on with the decision to cancel and break up. I asked if we could give it another day or two, that this is what he wants before we cancel the venue. Well, he declined and asked to cancel the venue and the vendors immediately. So that's exactly what we did. The next day, I went on an errands run, and then I met with my friend. It was truly such a hard day, and I was so heartbroken, and I was still digesting everything that happened. When I came home, he asked to talk and started crying that he regrets everything he said in the last days, that he didn't mean it, he was angry, and he wasn't thinking straight. He said he will start therapy, and he wanted to do couples counseling now as well, which is something I offered many times. Anyways, he apologized profusely and kept asking if we can mend everything or whether he messed up. Now, I was almost sure that this regret would come along, and honestly, maybe it was mean to say this, but I said, yeah, you messed up big time. You made a rash decision that hurt our relationship big time. There is no going back from here. He pretty much begged for another chance, but everything is canceled and my trust is completely shattered. The wedding is supposed to be in 2 days. His aunt was supposed to be on the way to our house so that she could help us pack our decorations, and now there's just no way we can schedule everything wedding again, and frankly, I don't want to at this point. This is not the first time he cancels plans or breaks up with me during a disagreement. Everyone is telling us that this is fixable, that clearly we love each other, so if we want, this situation doesn't have to be the end of the relationship. But I just don't understand how. So much time, effort, and money has gone into this wedding, and that's now completely done. And plus, more importantly, I simply can't trust him anymore. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. We were supposed to go on honeymoon right afterwards, so now I'm thinking about going by myself. He asked if we can go together and spend that time to fix things, but I'm just questioning everything right now. But I'm thinking about going by myself so I can do some soul searching. Should I call it quits and move on with my life, or take his word and start couples counseling? I love him with my entire heart, and we had many loving experiences between us over the years. We don't have any issues aside from such incidents, but I don't know whether it's actually possible to come back from this one, because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is a horrible situation to be stuck in. For starters, if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever go back to this guy. Like seriously, just look at the way he's acting. This guy made the rash decision overnight to cancel your wedding and text a bunch of people to try and air out your dirty laundry, all over an argument about traffic the day before. Like, it almost seems like he did this just to punish you for making him mad, but even then, this guy is 30 years old. There's no good reason for him to freak out like that and then start burning down everything he's ever worked for with the original poster, all because he's upset about an argument that he escalated. And it really does suck that he's like, oh yeah, you made me angry. You're the reason this all fell apart. You're not good at communicating. This guy's projecting so hard, it's not even funny. He is literally just saying all the things that he's doing to you and trying to gaslight you into believing that you're the problem. But no, you are definitely not the problem. This guy is a giant walking red flag, and from the sounds of it, it does seem like you're really catching on to that. Now, for me, the icing on the cake is when he came back and said, oh, I'm so sorry, can we fix this? And I'm just so glad that you came back and said, no, we can't fix it. You messed up big time. And that, in my opinion, was the best decision you've ever made in this scenario, because I think in a roundabout way, this guy was testing you. He wanted to see how close to the line he could go with how crazy he was acting. This guy literally canceled your wedding a week before, and then he comes back to you and says, oh, I'm so sorry, let's please try to fix this. I'll go to couples counseling with you. It's like, dude, at that point, this is way too late. You've ruined everything, you've completely humiliated the original poster, and in my opinion, there is no way you can ever come back from this. Like, I would feel the exact same way the original poster feels, where they just straight up say, no, I just can't trust this guy anymore. So in my opinion, I think this guy did you a huge favor, because he does not sound like a fun person to be around or someone you want to spend the rest of your life dealing with, because this guy does not sound healthy or safe to be around in the slightest. And I think that you deserve so much better than what this guy is trying to give you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not inviting someone for dinner, all because she made a big deal online about me having a cat in my house? Because now she's saying that I'm a mean girl who could have easily invited her to this party. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. A while back, I posted a picture to my Instagram stories of my cat sitting next to my counter on his own stool while I was cooking. And mind you, he was watching while also being next to my counter, not anywhere near the food. He doesn't go on counters and he doesn't go anywhere near the food. My friend, who we will call Rose, reposted it with her own caption. She put a puke face emoji and says, "You just can't eat at everybody's house." Now, I ignored it and went about my business. She is, by the way, very much the type of person who just regurgitates whatever popular phrase she sees on social media. If there's pineapple on pizza, she'll call you a monster. If raisins are in cookies, then this is why she has trust issues. And she also doesn't trust people who don't like dogs. Stuff like that just makes her completely delusional. She has other traits that make up for it, but truthfully, I do tend to avoid any one-on-one time that I might have with her. Fast forward, and about a month ago, I hosted a small get-together so I could show off some of the cookware that I obtained. I had a whole little shindig with home-prepared food, and I had a lot of fun times with my pals. But here's the thing, I didn't invite Rose. She found out after folks posted on their Instagram stories, and she confronted me over it, saying that I was giving high school mean girl vibes. I told her that she has made it clear that she doesn't eat at the homes of people who have cats, so why would I invite her to a dinner party? Well, when I said that, she got defensive and said that she could have just come and not eaten anything. But I said that in the future, maybe she should be more careful about what she says, because to me, it was very clear. Rose has continued to tell people people that I'm giving high school mean girl turns into a nurse later on in life, despite the fact that I'm an accountant. So am I really the jerk for not inviting her? Because right now I am seriously annoyed. Yeah, I'm right there with the original poster. If someone's gonna complain like that and make some wild assumptions about my house, especially unprompted, then in my opinion, that's honestly everything I would need to know about them. Because here's the thing, if someone shows you exactly how they are, or exactly how they feel about you or a situation, then I personally think you should believe them. Sure, you can assume the best out of people and think maybe they're like being sarcastic or something like that, but it seems like this Rose lady has a really mean side to her, and that is just not fair for the original poster or anybody else that might have to deal with her. So no, you're not the jerk, because honestly, I would have done the exact same thing. My entitled neighbor complains about any noise that's ever made in the apartment building that we live in. And after dealing with this nearly every single day for the past few weeks, I now feel completely trapped in my own home. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that our neighbor is downright crazy. We've lived in our apartment for 4 years and we love it. However, the past year has been a nightmare. We've gotten a new neighbor, not in our own hallway, but she is in the adjoining building and hallway, so she shares a wall with us. The first few weeks were fine. We talked with her and told her that if there was ever an issue, we were open to communication. We've never had any issues before, but due to us having a dog, even though it's a small dog, we'd like to be upfront with all of our neighbors, just so we can have some kind of healthy relationship with the people around us. But after the first few weeks, the problems really started happening. Suddenly, we got complaints about our dog barking, and not just one complaint, but we would instead get like 3 or 4 a week. Our dog is the most gentle old soul there is, and he only barks on 3 occasions: when the doorbell rings and he's happy to see you, when he gets spooked by something, which is rare, and when we play, which we only do for maybe 5 to 10 minutes at a time, because we know the sound can be annoying. He never barks when he's home alone or otherwise. He's very chill and very mellow. He's made friends with everyone in our hallway, and several of them have been dog sitting if we ever had to leave for extended periods of time, and they all say he's the easiest dog to look after. Anyways, we talked to the new superintendent, who wasn't allowed to elaborate who the complaints were coming from, as they were reported anonymously. But we soon found out very quickly, because the neighbor, who I'll call Karen from now on, started banging on the walls whenever she felt like we were too loud. One weekend at around 10:30 a.m., we had been playing with our dogs for maybe 5 minutes when she aggressively banged on our wall. Mind you, we live in a concrete building with 30-centimeter thick walls. I talked to everybody else in our hallway, but no one was bothered with our dog. We live in a building with several other people, and in the surrounding buildings there are dogs as well. Dogs who bark and make all kinds of noise. We tried to keep it down, and for a while we thought that was the end of it. But recently, this entitled Karen started complaining again, not just to the landlord and the superintendent, but also in our Facebook group designated for our area. While we were away on holiday out of the country, this entitled Karen decided that now was the time to do a long rant in said Facebook group, telling everyone how horrible we were at keeping our dog quiet, that we make him bark just to annoy her. And she even made some really inappropriate comments about our life, basically implying that we're making loud noises on purpose. And now at this point, I feel trapped in my own home. I'm afraid to do anything that might set her off and give us another complaint. But luckily, the superintendent is on our side. He and the other neighbors have told us that we're not the only ones she's complained about. She's complained about a newborn baby that was crying, and a developmentally disabled child who can't talk and therefore makes noises instead. She even complained about someone talking on their own balcony. This entitled Karen told that person to respect her privacy and that she didn't want to hear what they were talking about, even though they were 3 apartments away. I honestly hate this woman so much, and so do all of my neighbors, and I'm honestly feeling so stuck and I just don't know what to do. Yeah, this lady sounds super entitled. Apartment buildings are just noisy in general. People are doing their own things, they have all kinds of stuff going on, and frankly, people are going to make noise. And she knew that moving into this place. So I wouldn't feel too bad about this, because clearly she's on the wrong side of this situation, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would be banding together with all my other neighbors and possibly forwarding some kind of formal complaint against her, as it really seems like she's only complaining on purpose, and not because there's any actual noise in the building. Because the way she's acting is super unfair, and you deserve to have a respectful neighbor instead of whatever this entitled Karen is giving you instead. My wife has been spending way too much time with a former coworker, to the point where it's disrupting our marriage and causing a lot of fighting between the two of us. And now, after noticing so many red flags from this guy, I'm now convinced that something might be going on between the two of them. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 32-year-old male, and I've been married to my wife going on 9 years. Recently, we we've had a fight over one of her former coworkers. And for the sake of the story, we'll call this coworker Matt. Matt and my wife hadn't been working together for a long time, maybe a couple of months at most, and I noticed some behavior that had me suspicious and feeling disrespected. My wife began constantly talking about Matt. It was as if every sentence from her was in some relation to Matt. It would be Matt this and Matt that. It eventually got to the point that I asked her if she could speak about him less, as it was becoming annoying that every conversation had to do with him. A few weeks later, my wife tells me that she is going to have a girls' night out with her female coworkers, and I think that's cool that she's going to go out and have some fun with them. She states that they'll be going to an audition for one coworker, and then they're going to hit the bars. And at the time, I believed that this was all good, but then just guess who's also going to be there for this all-female event. That's right, Matt's going to be there too. I found it odd that an all-female get-together would also involve a guy, and just to get a stereotype out of the way, Matt is straight. Another time involves Matt inviting my wife and son to a trampoline place. So when that happened, I took the opportunity to invite myself to meet the guy who my wife constantly talks about and invites or even tags along with everything that she does. We get to the place and spend about 2 hours there. Matt has spoken to me 0 times outside of introductions and won't even acknowledge that I exist. Now, I am quite an intimidating person, so it can be difficult to approach me and engage with me. That being said, if I were Matt and had the opportunity to speak with a woman's husband that I'm constantly talking to and inviting her places, I would absolutely get to know him. This gave me another red flag about this guy. Time goes by and my wife is talking about Matt 0, but still texting him all the time. One Saturday after our son's gymnastics class, we get home and my wife exclaims, "Well, there goes my convertible ride." Now I'm confused and I ask what she's talking about. She then tells me that Matt bought a new convertible and was going to leave as soon as we got home to go ride around with him. And this was yet another red flag as to why this wasn't even brought up before. I believe everyone can do as they want and don't need permission to do things that they want to do, but I do think that giving your partner a heads up prior to doing things is still important. My wife starts telling me that Matt has some gifts for our son, and I just find it odd that another man is buying gifts for my son when it is neither the holidays nor his birthday. And this gives me a yellow flag at the very least about what this guy is doing. Now, here's the kicker that relates to him not speaking to me. When I would pick my wife up from work, my son would be with me. Matt would deliberately walk in front of my car and a couple of spaces down before returning by going around the back of my car and only speaking to my son. Now, I found this extremely disrespectful, as he went out of his way to not acknowledge me or speak to me, and would sneakily try to speak to my son and my wife. Matt decided he would invite my wife and other women to a rave, and there's nothing wrong with dancing, but the issue arises that he did not invite any males to go, nor did he invite any romantic partners of the women. Well, I told my wife that I would like to go, and she told Matt, and when she told him, he canceled the plans. And this was yet another huge red flag. This guy would be willing to invite women to a rave and then cancel when a romantic partner decides that he would like to go too. He tried to shift the blame onto me by saying he couldn't buy the tickets because I hadn't made up my mind even though I said I was going. After all of this, I decided that Matt is not a good guy, and he is trying to weasel his way into my marriage. I mean, there's just too much that I'm seeing that I just can't ignore. Finally, we get to what has caused a huge fight between my wife and I, which is a stupid package. My wife ordered something, and me, being curious, asked her what it was. Well, she tells me it's none of your effing business, and this just brings up a giant red flag. I then ask her who it's for, and again, I get the exact same response. So eventually, I pick up the package and I ask my wife what it is, and yet again, it's apparently none of my business. Well, I get angry because of all of this Matt stuff, and I yell out, "Why are you being so secretive?" She yells at me, saying that it's a gift for Father's Day, and she wanted it to be a surprise. And yes, for the record, I did think it was a gift for Matt. So now, my wife doesn't feel like I trust her, even though it's not her that I don't trust. And now she is not speaking with me. I find it ridiculous that we are having a fight over a random coworker that should mean absolutely nothing to our relationship. Yet here we are. You would think after almost 9 years of marriage that some nobody wouldn't be able to cause this amount of friction. So seriously, am I overreacting and thinking that Matt is up to no good? Am I overreacting that Matt might be trying to weasel his way in, and that my wife is being blind to everything that he is trying? What should I do? Yeah, this sounds like an exhausting situation, and the fact that your wife isn't able to have some kind of self-reflection about all of this, in my opinion, speaks volumes to what is actually happening. Because I think you're right. I think Matt is absolutely trying to weasel his way into your marriage, and in my opinion, opinion, it's almost like Matt has become your wife's boyfriend. Like, this guy avoids you like the plague. He doesn't talk to you, he doesn't look at you, but still has the audacity to try and talk to your son without talking to you first. Like, that part alone made me incredibly angry, because in my opinion, if you're gonna talk to somebody's kid, you absolutely talk to the parents first. You don't just walk up and talk to the kids, you address the parents first and foremost, and you don't go around that just because you might know the kids under some circumstances. That is incredibly inappropriate and super sketchy. Like, that alone would make me lose my mind if I was in the original poster shoes. On top of that, all these parties that Matt is trying to organize, where the wife is invited but the husband isn't, is all just super sketchy and just does not look good. And hey, maybe this is innocent. Maybe there's nothing going on between the two of them, and it might just be a really good friendship of some kind. But if it really was that good of a friendship, then Matt would step up and try to be your friend as well. But instead, he's been running away from you and trying to like actively avoid you at all cost. So no, you are definitely not overreacting, because I definitely think that Matt is up to something that's really sketchy. And in my opinion, I think it would really be good to try and get to the bottom of this, because this scenario sounds like an absolute nightmare. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.